Paul Skenes should win the Cy Young. Someone wants to sign Eugenio Suárez at all costs. And yes, I was asked if I'd start a Locked On Curve podcast. Let's get into your questions next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Pirates, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gary Morgan, and today's episode is a special Ask Me Anything edition. You sent in questions about Skenes, Keller, Cruz, free agents, minor league moves, and even how to bridge a 180-inning gap in the 2026 rotation. Yeah, you guys are thinking deep. Let's dive in. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's get right into it. I love AMAs, as you all know. First question I thought was pretty easy. Is Paul Skenes going to win the NL Cy Young? Listen, all I can tell you is right now he's got the numbers. This isn't a Pittsburgh conspiracy that he should win it or that we're just praying that he might, or let's hope that they give the lowly Pirates some kind of acknowledgement of our season. No, it's not like that. I mean, Paul's taking it. I mean, he's the best pitcher in baseball, and by far, and he's the best pitcher in the National League. There are some other players that are having really good seasons. Christopher Sanchez, we've talked about them before. Logan Webb. They've all had missteps that Paul hasn't had. An under 2 ERA is otherworldly. A whip just over 1 is otherworldly for how many innings he's thrown. Almost 200 strikeouts at this point. It would take something freakish for him to lose the Cy Young. In fact, at this juncture of the season, it wouldn't be ideal, and it would then probably take a weak finish by some of the closest competition. But if he were to, for some reason, have to shut it down right now, I think he'd have a real puncher's chance of still winning it. I think it would take something pretty crazy for him not to. Here's another one. Is Oviedo worth more on the trade market than Keller? I mean, it was an interesting question because Oviedo's a lot younger. Keller's got that paycheck like attached to him. I guess I'm trying to put myself in the seat of another GM. I'm looking at the Pirates for help for pitching, and let's say that they get offered both Oviedo and Keller. On the one hand, I've got Mitch Keller. He never gets hurt. He always gives me 180 to 200 innings. They're pretty good innings. He's going to have an ERA right around 4. You hope for a little better than 4, but he's going to be right in that general area. You're going to get a number 3 starter here. That's what Mitch Keller is, and you're going to have him for the foreseeable future for a very, very satisfactory contract as far as this league is concerned. I don't think you should expect him to fall off the table. I don't think what he does is going to degenerate over the next couple of years because Mitch Keller's not a max effort pitcher. So what he shows you and what you know of him, it's very real. It's very repeatable. It's proven that he knows how to do it. I think that's got a lot of value to it. I think Oviedo's got a heck of a ceiling, and while I'm excited about having him around, let's be real about him too. He's got days where, he doesn't hit the strike zone quite as much, and he struggles with his command, and he can have a real stinker of an outing. Not that Mitch can't. But the one time that they tried to really ride Johan Oviedo like the horse that we're hoping he is, he came up lame. I don't know if the league needs more time to think about that or not. I can honestly say I don't think you'd get as much in return for Johan Oviedo. If only because it would be really, really hard for you to prove what he's going to be. I think he's still in that prospect world, and Mitch is very much so not. Like, in your heart of hearts, you can sit here and say you expect Johan Oviedo to come out of the wash on the other end of next season as one of the Pirates' 5 starters. But can you say it like with 100% confidence that he's not going to get beaten out as the season goes on? Or that might even wind up in the bullpen? I don't know. I don't know how I would do that. I think Keller probably inherently has a little more value, is the best way I can answer it. Let's see. Will Mitch Keller or Oneil Cruz still be Pirates in 2026? Well, it's funny. I mean, we're kind of pulling right off of the back of that other question, right? I think Oneil Cruz will be for sure because I think they're stuck. You can't replace that talent. Even not playing his best, he put down some numbers that this team can't replicate, can't replace. We've talked about this before. I think they have no choice on Oneil Cruz. He'll be back next year. And it'll be really affordable too. I think Mitch will be too, because ultimately I just don't think you're going to find a lot of teams that want to give up what the Pirates think they need to have for Mitch Keller. And I can't speak for what the GM that I don't even know the name of will do next year. But I would think that you should be beyond like trying to deal for prospects. You need like major league talent at this point. I can't see a lot of teams willing to give that up. I'd love to think that would be a marriage and that would make sense, but I think we saw Boston get cold feet on it this year, and with, rightly so. They're using their prospects, aren't they? They're just making them play other positions and finding out that some of them weren't really as worthy as they thought maybe of being excited about. So I feel like that's probably going to work itself out. I think Keller ultimately stays. It just seems to make a lot of sense to me anyway. Let's go with the next one. Should the Pirates be looking at Gonzalez and York over Triolo at short? Well, York can't really play shortstop or third base. That's kind of stuff that I think fans want to see, and they saw him do it last year, and I understand that. I just think it's been kind of proven out that York doesn't have the type of arm that you need for the left side of the diamond. At this point, I think Jared Triolo has kind of proven he's a dude. Okay, he's a dude. They want him at least on their team next year. I think he can play shortstop. I think he can play third. To be blunt, I think he can play second. If I really wanted him to, he could play first. Nick York, he's more limited. Second base, I guess this first base is going to work out a little bit. Corner, outfield, and then you kind of question the arm a little bit there. Especially if you stick him in right field. He doesn't have a right fielder's arm, that's for sure. And Gonzalez has become one of the more consistent hitters in this lineup, and like I get them moving him over to shortstop at least to kind of see if he can do it like on a backup level. That makes sense to me. But part of me thinks Nick kind of deserves to hold down second base. Everybody else that we're talking about here is theoretical as to whether they're going to help or not. Shouldn't we kind of take the one guy who's gone beyond theory and actually done something in practice and like let him hold on to a spot? It's okay with me if it gets taken from him at some point, but I don't know if I want to mess around with Nick Gonzalez anymore. I think I understand where you're coming from as far as like it would be the best way to spread the talent out. I just think that before we start spreading the talent out, we should make sure that it's all worthy, spreadable talent. And I don't necessarily think I need to displace my one plant that's already growing pretty well just to see if I can grow something else in the garden. Nick Gonzalez doesn't need to be messed with either, right? Let's let him stay where he's comfortable and continue to grow into the player that he is. And plus, I expect Nick to kind of grow more power. And let's be honest, that's not the right direction to be going. You don't want to be moving from second base to shortstop it when you're trying to add power and whatnot to your frame. I want Nick to be hitting more home runs, and I think that's going to require a little bit of work from him. Probably going to take shortstop out of his quiver. It's worthy to try it. I see why they're doing it. I get it. I just, at the same time, I kind of wish that they would just leave him go. And I understand where you're coming from. It's a good place. But just my thoughts on it are, I'm already tired of all the shuffling with Devaney and Peguero and Triolo, and it's just too many guys. Like, I don't think you're going to learn anything trying to learn everything. Get what I mean? When we come back, more questions, AMA time, everybody. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, the energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by a Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes it super simple. You can even see the exact view from the seat before you buy it. And I already mentioned it, but it's super important. Know your total up front. The fees are included with no surprise fees at checkout. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like. Tell a friend about the show. Keep helping me grow this thing. We're doing a great job. Let's just keep it rocking. Kind of a two-part question here to get us started in segment 2. And it's first, where will MLB expand? And that's something that's a big topic coming up with this new CBA agreement. And then the second part of that question is, will cities that lost minor league teams get them back if they end up doing this sort of thing? So I'll tackle the first one first. I got nothing on this except for the rumors that I read and hear like the rest of you. But Nashville feels inevitable. I mean, it feels like Nashville is going to happen. There's a lot of groundswell to have it happen. The Nashville Sounds, the minor league team there, is well attended. It's treated like a top tier sport. People go to those games like it's part of the culture. I would hope that whatever they do, if they do bring a major league team to Nashville, that wouldn't disrupt their minor league situation. The culture there is unbelievable. Like, if you're a minor league fan and you have a destination, there's a few. One of them is Nashville Sounds. One of them for me was Missoula. I wanted to go out and see the Paddleheads. I love that little ballpark and where it's nestled. But so I could see Nashville. That's probably top of the board. Salt Lake City, a lot of people have been talking about, and it's gained some popularity recently. I'm not sure that I 100% buy that for baseball, though. I think you're going to have another one of those altitude issues, another indoor stadium. I think they'd really like to have, more outdoor ballparks. Portland, that would also be an indoor stadium, but Portland has been, I guess, kind of been crying to have a team for years now, and it make a little bit of sense. And then Charlotte. The thing with Charlotte is like I'd be a lot more comfortable with it if we had a salary cap in place, because all you're doing with Charlotte is bringing in another Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore, another team that probably isn't going to be able to support a whole lot of pay. I just think you're asking for more trouble there. And as far as like cities that lost minor league teams, I obviously am not going to be able to speak to this, but I think some of the cities that have continued to host teams anyway, like they've just moved on to having collegiate wood bat leagues, or even draft leagues, college leagues where they get together and play like special tournaments. The spikes have turned into that at State College, and there's several of these all around the country right now. Staten Island was a very popular one that went away. I think that one would probably have some push to find a new affiliate. Boise, another one. They have purpose-built ballpark out there. It's beautiful, but they don't have anybody to play there. I could see that being one. It's got to be one that has maintained their infrastructure, though, because a lot of them, got rid of that, and a lot of them were cut because of the infrastructure. The last thing I'll say on this is an overall effort by Rob Manfred to cut down the number of minor league players in general. And they started this a couple years ago when they cut 2 levels of affiliate out of most of Major League Baseball. And I expect that if he had his druthers, they would get rid of the low A level as well. And I think you would just have you'd have like the Dominican summer leagues and whatnot, and perhaps they would expand those a little bit. But I think you'd be looking at, if they had their druthers, a single A, a double A, a triple A, and then the majors. If they do something like that, then you're going to have overflow affiliates anyway from that group that gets cast asunder. And I can't speak to the kind of traction they have on that sort of thought, but I just know that's where they've been headed. All right, so if there's a work stoppage, what kind of show are you going to do? And will there be a locked on curve? Yeah, no, there won't be a locked on curve. This is going to be a locked on Pirates show. Even if we talked about the affiliates, that's what we'd be doing. I've been through one of these already. I've been through a work stoppage and maintained a website and wrote just about every day something about the Pirates. And some of them are going to be, maybe a little more hokey than I'd like them to be, or I'll expand on a topic a little bit longer than I probably would like to stretch the shows out a little bit. But for the most part, yeah, we won't have many problems. It won't be as fun as covering baseball, but there will be the daily ins and outs and rumor mill of the actual shutdown. There'll be the rumors about the kind of deals that they're talking about, the stumbling blocks they're running into, what it might look like coming out of it, what the Pirates' priorities might be coming out of it. And we'll have player interviews. We'll talk to ex-coaches. We'll find plenty of things to talk about. I've done this before. I'm not concerned. I've been through the fire with this sort of thing before, and maybe I'm foolish, but I trust my abilities to keep you entertained and keep you coming back for more baseball talk, even if I got to start digging into the history books and doing Mount Rushmore shows and whatnot. I'd really rather not do that, but let's see. Who would be the future closer right now? And this is a tough question for me, because I think there's a lot of the starting candidates that probably could wind up being that. This is an interesting candidate, and I don't know how you're going to take this. You might not like it. But I think a great idea with a guy like Jared Jones, who's coming back from Tommy John next year at some point. Let's say he gets to like May, June or whatever, and he's ready to come back. I would love to see them, because you're going to have to monitor his innings anyway. So even if you build him back up into a starter, what are you going to get? 10 starts with him, maybe? And then you got to shut him down. It's not like you'd be able to carry him into the playoffs and everything and ask him to give you 110 innings next year. It's not going to happen. So shove him in the bullpen. Let him use his arsenal. In fact, Jared Jones would make one hell of a cool closer, don't you think? Like if he was coming out and throwing that 100-mile-an-hour heat and just giving you his all an inning a night, that could be really interesting. But if not him, I really want you all to start paying attention to this player in AAA, Brandan Bidois. I mean, this is a guy they got from international pool from Australia. He's gone through all the levels of the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. Started in Bradenton, Greensboro, Altoona, and finally on to Indianapolis. Right now, just for the season, let me just read you this guy's season numbers. You won't believe them because they're otherworldly. But he's pitched in 36 games this year. He has a .81 ERA. 0.81 ERA. 55.2 innings pitched this year. And let's just talk about this sexy stat. 57 straight batters now without a hit. That's video game stuff, guys. Video game stuff. He's moved all the way from low A, all the way to Indianapolis. Yes, I absolutely think that this guy could wind up being a Pittsburgh Pirate next year. In fact, the way he's been pitching, I don't know if he might not even come out of this year getting called up. The only reason he wouldn't is because of 40-man concerns. He's unbelievable. There's nothing on him. There's barely anything written on him. There was an episode of Bucko Banner that he did an interview on, fairly pedestrian. Really weren't talking about these numbers all that much quite yet. This guy, it's scary. He throws a curveball. It looks like it's going to punch you right in the ear. And then it just curves and goes right over the strike zone. He's got a starter's repertoire. He can throw 97 miles an hour with pinpoint accuracy. Nobody can touch him. Nobody can see him. This kid could, and he loves being a back-end bullpen guy. This guy could truly come out of nowhere and be a starter for this baseball team. And wouldn't that be cool? Because that's really what happens with bullpens too. Like nobody's talked about Brandan Bidois this year. Nobody has talked about him this year. Until a couple weeks ago, somebody started bringing him up. John Drecker, one of the prospect hounds here in Pittsburgh, brought him up. And like now I can't take my eyes off of him. And I never noticed. Didn't see him in the box scores, just didn't pay attention. No, there was no fanfare. This is just a guy that could emerge out of nowhere, and it would be unbelievable. Let's take a quick step away. When we come back, let's pick up with more questions, finish out the show today. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It helps organize, especially streaming apps. There are so many of them, and they all have different times of the month where the money comes out, and they'll increase the prices on you without notifying you necessarily, or if they do, it's in an email you ignored. Monarch really helps with all this stuff. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Let's pick up where we left off. One more, I would say, minor league oriented question here. Have you ever seen a prospect you were sure would pan out and it just never worked out? Yeah, I mean, plenty of times. You guys listen to the show, so you know that I don't give that out very easily. I didn't even tell you to you should 100% believe in Bubba Chandler. In fact, I told you you shouldn't bet on him being in the rotation next year, and I'm still sticking to that. It takes me a long time to get to the point where I truly believe in a prospect, think that the skids are cleared and there's nothing in their way. I fully expect them to come on. And even then, you say pan out. Well, pan out is in the eye of the beholder. Pan out can be just becoming a major leaguer. Pan out can be becoming a league average player. Pan out, that's the way I look at it. Pan out for you might mean I thought this guy was going to be an all-star, and very rarely do I ever get to that point. I can think of a few, about 5 that I really thought were no-brainers, gonna be stars up here. Paul Skenes is one of them. Bubba Chandler is one of them. I still believe that the arsenal is there and he will figure it out. But yeah, I mean, you want to give me cheat credit? Jamison Tyon, I thought, was going to be a heck of a lot better than he was. All those injuries killed him. But that was a guy I totally thought was going to be a perennial all-star. Really. To be honest, Quinn Priester's a guy I always thought was going to pan out. Even when we traded him for Nick York, I still thought he's probably going to pan out. I like his arsenal and his approach. And if you've ever talked to the kid, he was going to be a success at some point. So, I mean, that's a guy. Rodolfo Castro, big swing and miss for me. One of the first guys I ever really wrote about. Back in 2020, I wrote about Rodolfo Castro and just watched him ascend and make the league. And then he came on, he looked pretty good. He started hitting a bunch of home runs against the Mets, if you'll remember. I think he hit 4 in one series against the Mets. And then he just went ice cold and nothing ever came back. And the cell phone and everything. Yeah, you could say I was wrong on Rodolfo Castro for sure. I mean, I guess I'm probably careful about that, if only because I don't like getting your hopes up. I always like to undersell the prospects because I think so much of the tendency is to oversell. Why was Ji-Hwan Bae recalled and Ryan Kreidler demoted without playing? I don't know. I don't know anything about Ryan Kreidler. I haven't heard his name once since he came up here. I know that he was brought up because he was on the taxi squad. In case Isaiah Kiner-Falefa got claimed. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa got claimed. I don't know why they waited a week to make some kind of a swap there, but they did. I don't know why Ji-Hwan Bae, except for that he has another option next year, which I know you guys don't want to hear, but having an option may mean that you're at least not on the front lines of the cutting that will take place or the non-tender event that will take place. And maybe they just want to get one more look at him and see what else there is. I don't know what to say about Ji-Hwan Bae. In AAA, he looks like a serviceable player. Up here, he doesn't. The swing doesn't fit. He swings at absolute trash up here. To be fair, he does that in AAA too, but you can get away with that in AAA. Because the next pitch coming at you probably isn't going to be nearly as defined or good, and you can probably make up for it. But up at the major league level, he doesn't. Ryan Kreidler, I don't know why he wouldn't just get on at bat or I don't know. You're asking me to understand the moves that a guy makes who just makes more and more that I don't understand as the days go by. Why shouldn't the Pirates do everything possible to sign Eugenio Suárez? He's a good fit here. They need a third baseman. He's got a ton of power. His track record for power is good. He's not old. I think he's reasonable probably in a contract because while he's not old, he is older. So I think you're probably looking at a guy that can be had for somewhere in the $15 to $20 million a year range. But he's going to take a 2 or 3 year commitment. If you want to make that, fine. I mean, I'm all about it. They need power, and he's the best on the board as far as that goes. I prefer get my power from the left side, if only because of PNC Park. But Suarez has more than enough to hit home runs there, as we've seen throughout the years, as he's played for multiple teams. I'm not against it. I think if I was to go all out for something that was going to change this team, I'd go for another one of those dream scenarios, and it would be for me Trent Grisham or Kyle Schwarber. One of those two, I think, would probably really change things here and add that power that they desperately need. But I could see Eugenio Suárez. It doesn't bother me at all. Well, someone asked here, how do you bridge the gap in 2026 for the rotation? And this was my buddy Ed, and he went in and he guessed a bunch of like how many innings certain guys would throw versus how many innings certain other guys wouldn't throw. Now, I don't want to read everything Ed wrote because the gist of it is, I'm going to say, I think you're off on some of your estimations. That said, the spirit of your question is right. There is going to be some inning trouble. Skenes and Keller, I think you can pencil in for anywhere from 180 to 220. That's what they're going to expect from them next year, and that's good and important. Eugenio Oviedo will take a little bit bigger of a jump than you suggested, though. Instead of 120, I think you're looking at 130, 140 next year that they'll expect him to carry. I think you can expect most of the kids like Braxton Ashcraft and Mike Burrows and Bubba Chandler and even Hunter Barco to, that type. Carmen Majinski, if you want to still count him, whoever else in that group that you're looking at, Harrington, you're probably looking at all of them coming up around 120 where they want to keep them, 130 even. I think that's probably where you're going to be looking at. They probably have enough, if there's no injuries, to get through this whole thing and ride it out with these kids. But it's risky. So I answer your question this way. I believe they could go out and get another veteran. I think they probably would be inclined to do so. And the reason that I think so is just we've seen them kind of have this pseudo plenty of guys to be in the rotation scenario just about every year. And just about every year they've gone out and got a veteran. I think they'll do that again. I really do. I don't think it'll be like a Vince Velasquez. I don't think it has to be a lefty, but I think it probably will be. I think that's what they would prefer. Specifically, Ed mentioned Bailey Falter. I don't believe so. They weren't going to non-tender him because they didn't want to pay him that amount of money. They were going to non-tender him because they felt that there was a fatal flaw in what he could actually accomplish in this league, and the league had caught on to it. In other words, they were getting by with smoke and mirrors with him and this extension thing, and it worked great for as long as it worked, but they just didn't think it was going to keep working. I don't see them changing their mind on that. And I think there's other guys you could get that are going to be almost in that affordability zone. I mean, a guy that liked being here when he was here and didn't leave under any kind of bad terms or anything. In fact, has expressed a desire to come back, and I know loves Oscar Marin a whole lot. Jose Quintana. And he's having another good season when he's healthy. That's a great contributor. That's somebody I'd go look at. I wouldn't leave this completely in the hands of these kids. I wouldn't. I want to see them all. I'm excited to see them all, and it's the most exciting part of the team. But when you're talking about like eating that daunting hill of innings, the over 1,500 innings that you've got to get as a staff every year, yeah, I would like a vet to come in and help lift that at the beginning of the season. Why not? Yeah. I don't think it has to be an expensive vet. They've done pretty well on shopping at the dollar store and Aldi for that. Keep doing that. Spend all your money on offense. Go get Eugenio Suárez for my buddy over there. But hey, great Ask Me Anything session, everybody. I love this. That's all I got for you today. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions. This was a blast. If I didn't get to yours, don't worry. We'll do another one soon, especially in the off season, or if they do shut down the game in 2027, I can do an AMA like every day. Then it's your problem to come up with the topics, right? That's the way we'll have to look at it. Be sure to follow, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Gary Morgan. I'll talk to you tomorrow.